Welcome back to Easy English with Mel. My name is Mel and I'm so happy you're here. Today's English lesson is all about double negatives. So first off, we're going to talk about what is a negative, and then we're going to get into some examples of how people often use double negatives in a sentence for the wrong reason. And it actually ends up meaning something positive when they definitely didn't mean for it to be a positive sentence. And then we'll also talk about when you can use a double negative to really emphasize what you're talking about. And at the very end, I'm gonna talk about a word that maybe is a little bit controversial. It's got a bit of a bad reputation, but we're gonna tackle it and talk about it anyway. So stick around to the end to learn about that word. And if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's get started. Okay, so to begin, we need to talk about what are negative words. So our negative words are, and most of them do start with N, but they are no, not, never, nothing, nowhere, neither, no one, nobody, none, and nor. Those are our negative words that start with N. But there are other negative words like barely, hardly, scarcely that we'll also see in sentences. So you do need to keep an eye out for those words that show a lack. So a negative word, if you kind of gathered from those words, they express not having something, lack of something, an emptiness, nobody, nowhere, right? Those are negative words. And so when we're talking about verbs, you can actually make a negative verb by adding the conjunction not. So you take would not into wouldn't, could not, couldn't, is not, isn't, and so on and so forth. So a negative word expresses a negative quality. So whatever we're talking about, there is a lack of. Let's get into some examples so this makes more sense for you. If I were to say, I do not have anything, you would know that I don't have anything. I have a book. I do not have a book, right? So not having it and having it, you can see which one is the negative. Have not is the negative. Now, if I were to add a double negative, that would mean that I'm adding an extra negative word into my sentence. So for this example, it would be I don't have nothing. So let's look at that sentence. I don't have nothing. Identify the two negative words in that sentence. Don't and nothing. What happens when we put two negatives into a sentence? It becomes a double negative, and a double negative equals a positive. So I don't have nothing, that means I have something. I don't have nothing, I have everything, or I have something, right? And you have to be careful when using these double negatives because you might be trying to say that you do not have anything. But if you change that anything to nothing, you're actually saying you have a lot. Another example would be, he isn't going nowhere. So if you were to say, he isn't going nowhere, you're actually saying he is going somewhere. So if you actually wanted to say that he wasn't going anywhere, you would have to take out the nowhere or the isn't and change it to either he isn't going anywhere or he is going nowhere. Okay? So there you have some examples of double negatives that actually mean a positive, and these are very tricky things we need to look out for in our writing and in our speaking to make sure that we are conveying, that we are saying and giving the right message to people. Okay? So if you said, I haven't seen nothing, what you're actually trying to say is that you haven't seen anything. But if you say, I haven't seen nothing, I want to know, what did you see then if you haven't seen nothing? All right? So keep an eye out for those in your writing and in your dialogue when you're talking. Look for those double negatives. Now, there are times when we do use a double negative, and this is when we are really trying to emphasize something. So this is not as common, but you might see this. So somebody might say, did you see that? And a person goes, I couldn't not see it. I couldn't not see it. So that means, oh yeah, they saw it. Another example could be, I never not eat the whole pizza, meaning I always eat the whole pizza, right? So sometimes when we really want to emphasize something, we can use a double negative. Now, I promised you that I would talk about this one word that gets a really bad reputation, and it's a bit controversial when it comes to using it in the English language. But let me tell you, it's important to know this word and understand when you hear this word what it means. So the word itself is ain't. I think that ain't is a very special word. Now, let me stop you right here. Do not use this word when you are writing to your professors or your teachers. Do not use this word in any kind of formal writing, okay? It is a word. You might have heard people say ain't a word. It is a word as much as any other slang word is a word. But it's not one we typically use in any sort of English formal writing, but you will hear it in dialogue. Now, it gets a bad reputation because people think that for some reason, people that use the word ain't are maybe not very educated or don't speak English very well, and that's just not true. Tons of educated people, including myself, have used this word in an appropriate setting, okay? The reason why I want to talk about it today is that I find that double negatives are used with the word ain't all the time. And in this case, this word, it acts sort of as a reinforcement of the negative instead of canceling the negative out. Now, I know this is confusing, but hear me out. If I heard somebody say, he ain't going nowhere, I don't go, oh, double negative, ain't nowhere, he's going somewhere. No, I know that whoever that person is, he is not going anywhere. He ain't going nowhere. Okay? Maybe you've heard this in movies, right? I hear it all the time, and I don't ever question it. Second one that I hear all the time is, I ain't seen nothing. Ain't nothing. That should technically mean that you saw something. But it seems again, when we're using the word ain't and pairing it with another negative, it is emphasizing the negative. Now, is this a clearly written rule? No. Will you learn this in school? No. And the reason is that ain't is not a word that we are being taught proper usage. This is just a word that is used in casual language, okay? So I'm giving you this little insider tip, but yes, don't write this on an exam. Don't quote me on it anywhere. Just know that if you hear ain't paired with another negative, generally it is emphasizing, it is making that negative even stronger. So he ain't going nowhere means he is not going anywhere. If you ain't seen nothing, you ain't seen nothing yet, right? That means you haven't seen anything yet, okay? There is more to come, right? So ain't is a very special word. So thank you so much for joining me today. I'm sure you guys probably have questions. If you want to give me some examples of some double negatives, or maybe you've got some sentences that you're wondering which negative you're supposed to use, if it should be a double negative, if it shouldn't be, let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more videos like this one, please subscribe to this channel, like this video, leave me a comment. Let me know if there's any videos, any topics that you would like to see in the future. Thank you again so much for joining me. I will see you again next time. Hello and welcome back. Another example would be like, we're going to talk about common times. No, not common times, what's the word? We're going to talk about, so these words, most of them, all of them, not, nobody, nothing, no one, oh goodness, neither, nor, I'm sure there's more, I think there's 10. Did I say nowhere or nothing? Did I say never?